What's up, y'all? So, second round of the playoffs are here, and I'm gonna give my predictions and thoughts on the first game of each series since it already happened. So, we're starting off with Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks. They played their first game, and the Bucks won. So, my prediction for this series was Celtics in seven, just because I thought that their defense was legit, and I thought that they had a chance if they could stop Kevin Durant, they could maybe slow down Giannis. And through the first game, they kind of did that. Giannis did not have a good shooting performance, but he did everything else. He rebounded. He was assisting like crazy. He would just drive into the paint. And although the Boston Celtics defense is good, Giannis is a much different monster versus Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is trying to get to his spots and trying to get his shots off. Meanwhile, Giannis literally just running freight train into the paint, and even if he was contested, double teamed a lot of the time, he would be able to kick out and find his shooters. And the Milwaukee shooters are a big X factor for this series. Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Brook Lopez and his defense, along with Giannis in the paint, that's a big thing. But Bobby Portis making a lot of shots. Grayson Allen had a really good performance against the Bulls, so his shooting as well has to continue to be good. Pat Connaughton, he has to start shooting well. Javon Carter is shooting well. So, they have a lot of bench players and a lot of shooters on their team that Giannis can pass out to. And although Giannis had 12 assists this game, I swear he could have had like 20, because he had a lot of hockey assists where he passed somebody and they made a pass out, or, just like they missed a shot or something. But I think that he was dominant in this game. He was, even if he didn't shoot very well, he was still able to make it to the paint and either get a shot off or, pass it out. And for Boston, they didn't shoot very well either. Boston Celtics as a whole, as a team, shot 53s, and that is not a sustainable practice, especially if they don't shoot it very, you know, very efficiently, obviously. Jason Tatum has to be better. Jaylen Brown especially has to be better. He really struggled in this first game. And I think the interior defense of the Bucks, this has been the Bucks thing forever, is they always let you shoot threes, but they won't let you get anything off in the paint. With Giannis and Brook Lopez, who has been amazing on defense for them. And I think I saw their defensive rating as a team when Brook is on makes them like one of the best defensive teams of the year, which is crazy because Boston was also one of the best teams of the year. So, I think for this series, for Boston to pull it out, they really got to defend Giannis a lot more, try to force the ball out of his hands. And before the series, I really wondered, like, how is Chris Middleton's injury going to play a role into this? Because Chris Middleton is sort of like their closer. You can give him the ball and he can make his own shot out of nothing most times. And, he was very clutch for them in the last year's playoffs. And him being out, that was a big factor to why I chose Boston, because I just thought that they're relatively healthy, even though Marcus Smart got hit like 17 million times this game. They're relatively healthy, and if their defense can just slow down Giannis enough, then they should be able to pull it out. But with Chris Middleton not being there, that just means the ball is in Giannis' hands even more, which means that they have to guard Giannis directly in every possession, basically, because he has the ball almost all the time and he's just making plays and kicking it out. So this was a really entertaining game to watch. I still pick Boston in 7, but this game just really reminded me and everyone how dominant Giannis is. Like, there's really like no stopping this guy. But I think if anybody can currently, I think Boston has a good chance. So I'm still sticking with them, but I wouldn't be surprised or disappointed if Milwaukee won as well. I was kind of rooting for them to repeat just because I really like Giannis. And, it's unfortunate that Chris Middleton injury happened, but he's still as dominant as ever. He's still, like, what is this, 24, 13, and 12 in the first game? He didn't shoot very efficiently, as I said before, but amazing performance. I wouldn't be surprised if they won as well in 7 or even 6, but I'm still sticking with Boston in 7. So yeah, Golden State Warriors versus Memphis Grizzlies. I'll be honest, I did not get to watch this game live, unfortunately. It was a really good game. Ja Morant almost had a triple-double, 34 points, 9 rebounds, and assists, and Jordan Poole, 31 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. I did watch the highlights afterwards, but this was a really entertaining game to watch, just like even highlights. It was really fun. I think my prediction for this one is Warriors in 6. I just believe the experience of the Warriors right now. They still have Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Jordan Poole as a huge X factor for them. I mean, not coming out of nowhere, but being like that third scorer for them, maybe even like second scorer most nights behind Steph. But like in this game, I think he was their highest scorer, But just like his evolution as a player, he should have been most improved, I believe, over Ja Morant. Like Ja Morant improved, but Jordan Poole also improved a bit more compared to what is expected of him. Anyways, I don't know, man. This is a really entertaining series, but I just believe the experience that Golden State has of being in this position before, just being in the playoffs and having their top 3, their core of Draymond, even though Draymond got ejected, still have Steph and Clay, and now Jordan Poole as like another scorer. He knows the system perfectly. He made some crazy passes today. Well, not today, but he made some crazy passes. Really entertaining, really fun to watch team. And, the question for them was how would they slow Ja Morant, and they didn't really slow Ja Morant, but, Jaren Jackson also had a big game, finally. That was a big X factor for Grizzlies because they need him to play like the second option that he's supposed to be, and he had 30-ish points as well. So that's good for them. Desmond Bane didn't shoot well, if I believe. And Dylan Brooks shot too much. But this is a really fun game to watch, even though I only watched the highlights. I think I'll be going with Warriors in 6 just because of their experience. And I think the Grizzlies are still they're still a young team, and I believe a little underexperienced. But I just hope for the most entertaining series. I hope it goes to 7. I would be like 50% surprised if Grizzlies won. Like I would be, just because I expect the Warriors to win, but I also wouldn't be because I understand how good the Grizzlies are. But I still think I'll go Golden State. Miami Heat and Philadelphia 76ers. Man, this series is a bummer because Joel Embiid is injured. He did not play the first game. He will not play the second game. He is questionable to come back for game 3 and 4. And unfortunately, with him out, I feel like I did pick Miami in my original video to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I kind of wanted Philadelphia to make it just because they beat the Raptors, and I wanted them to actually make it a bit farther to prove that they were good. But with Joel being out like this, I don't know. As you can see, Bam Adebayo, 24, 12, and 4 assists. He ate today. There's nobody really there to stop him. I don't know, man. I don't really like watching the Heat like that. I did fall asleep in the third quarter of this game. I think I was just tired, but the Heat are also sometimes boring to watch. I don't really like their offense. Tyler Hero is good, but he's good offensively, but I feel like they rely on his offense a bit too much, which I mean they should because he's good, but I just feel like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, they're not as good offensively as they could be, especially Bam. I feel like sometimes he's too passive. Obviously, this game is not a good example of that. But I believe Miami will win this series, honestly, just because Joel is out. And they proved today they're super deep. They're a super deep team. For the Philadelphia 76ers, people keep saying James Harden has to turn back the clock and go back to his MVP ways, which he does if they want to have a chance to win. Even though in the first half they were up by 1 against the Heat, and I was like, they might have a thing here, but the Heat pulled out in the second half. I just think that I don't know. I don't think James Harden has it in him right now to go back to this MVP version of himself. People keep saying this, but I feel like they've been saying it this season and even last season a little bit. Last season he was a bit better, but he was still like more of this point guard version of him that we know now, where he's like more looking to assist, which isn't bad, but it's just like I think he's doing that because that's what he can do right now. I don't know if he's not scoring because he doesn't want to score because he wants to assist more. I feel like he just isn't that scorer anymore. It's kind of hard to watch sometimes because he can't blow by people like he used to. I feel like his dribble moves, it's just not hitting the same. That's a weird way to say it, but it just really isn't. And he's not getting past his defenders as easily. And Miami's defense is really good anyway with Bam, who can get switched on to James Harden and really slow him down to Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker. They have defenders. So I just don't think that James Harden has it in him to go back to whatever this MVP version of him is. So I don't think they'll be able to win game 2. And if they're down 0-2 going back to Philadelphia, Joel has to be back for them to have even a chance. And even then, I'm not sure. I feel like Joel would have to go crazy. And coming out of an orbital fracture and a mild concussion, that seems pretty difficult to do. Tobias Harris, however, had a great game. 27.6 assists, 6 rebounds, and 1 assist. He was like their main offense today, and he was good. He was getting some shots off. He was getting in the mid-range a little bit. But there was one point in the game where they were talking about how Tobias Harris was the tallest player out there. And, because Bam wasn't in the game, and Tobias Harris was basically the tallest player on the floor. And I was just thinking, like, how amazing Joel would be, because he's way taller than Tobias, So if Joel was the tallest player on the floor like that, it would be a lot better. But anyway, Tobias Harris had a really good game. But, they just need James Harden to step up more. He didn't score enough. I think he only had like 19 points. Tyrese Maxey also had a hard-ish time with the defense. But, it's pretty difficult to expect a team missing their MVP caliber player to really stand a chance against the number 1 Miami Heat team. They're number 1 for a reason. So, before the series started, I would have wished Philadelphia to win. But I think Miami in 6. But even then, with this injury, I think it could be Miami in 5, honestly. But I still have Joel pulling out 2 games if he comes back and he's healthy. If not, maybe it is a 5-game series, which would be disappointing, but it is what it is. Phoenix Suns and Dallas Mavericks. I picked the Suns to win, I believe, in 7, just because they are that experienced team by now. They are this like collective. Chris Paul had an amazing last game to close out against the Pelicans. A big question for this series would be, how would Devin Booker be playing since he got that hamstring injury? And his last game against the Pelicans, he wasn't that good. He's not up to his standards. But this game, he looked good. He looked like Devin Booker pretty much. DeAndre Ayton as well, with Dallas not really having any big man defender who can really stop him. DeAndre Ayton was like getting into the paint. He has that jump shot, that mid-range jump shot that's like money. Every single time it goes in so easily. And, he's taking advantage of the fact that Dallas doesn't have a big man. So, plus Mikal Bridges as well defensively on Luka. And obviously nobody's going to stop Luka. He still had a great game. But they have people that can throw at Luka. Jalen Brunson really struggled this game as well. He had some early foul trouble. And Spencer Dinwiddie, again, kind of a stinker of a game. So, with all of that, although Luka scored 45 points and Maxi Kleba hit like a million threes, he hit at least like 6 or 7. It was never really a game to begin with. Dallas was down pretty big at the beginning, and it always felt like they were kind of just barely hanging on in this game. And they did make somewhat of a run in the second half when the Suns got a bit too comfortable, but they still pulled it out. And I don't know. Dallas is good, but I just feel like Phoenix is better. It's not a thing about Dallas being bad. It's just the Phoenix Suns are such a good collective team, and they just fit so well. And now that we saw Devin Booker, he's not real. I mean, he's injured, I suppose, but it's obviously not affecting him as much, and he's still playing to the standards that he has. I just think that the Suns are a more complete team, and if Brunson is going to struggle like that, which I don't think he will, but if Spencer Dinwiddie is also going to struggle, and everybody else on their team is not going to do as much as they can, while Luka had 45, like 11 rebounds and like 8 assists or something like that, there's not much more you can ask out of Luka at that point. So I just think the Suns collectively are a better team. So I did pick them to win in 6 or 7. I might have said 7. But I think I'll go to 6. But I do hope for a game 7 just because it'll be more entertaining that way.